Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. I am going to be talking to you today about how to make colour changes in a pattern such as this. This is our day one pattern in the Facebook group. So if you go to BTC Granny Squares 2021, the link for that will be down here in the description box. If you go to that, you'll see that we have suggested this square, which is called Reinventing the Granny Square. This is, although it might not look like it, this is the basic granny square. It just has this gorgeous design in it. We provided a file with the link, which we're doing each day, not each day, we're doing each week, should I say, Monday, Wednesday and Fridays. We're going to be bringing you the link for a pattern. It will send you to go and have a look at that designer's website or blog, or it might be Ravelry, and then you'll be able to have a go at their pattern. In the file we have, linked, we have popped some like hints and tips if we have discovered anything a bit tricky. So for this square, what we have noticed in the group is that not everyone wants to sew in sort of 30 ends. Okay, not everyone wants to cut and change colour every single time. Equally, to carry the colour through can be tricky. Granny squares have these gaps. If you're not familiar with the granny square, this is not a tutorial on how to make it. I do need to kind of point that out. It's not a tutorial, but it has these gaps along. So if you're carrying your yarn from here to here, then across the top here you would get a strand of yarn. Now that would be on the back. Here's my back. So you would have some yarn carrying across the stitch. Okay, and it doesn't look particularly great depending on what you want to use this for. If you want to use it like for a blanket or something and both sides will show, you want it to be as neat as possible on both sides. So my colours are sort of fairly similar in in tone, in I think it's tone, is it called tone? How sort of pastel-y they are. So you wouldn't see the colour so much, but imagine if you were doing like a black and white or something, you would want them to not have, you wouldn't want sort of a big black stripe going across here, and risk the chance of it showing on this side. So I had a bit of a play with this, and there were a couple of times when I thought, if it's not going to be possible, I'm just going to have to cut it every single time. But I thought, come on, there's got to be an easier way. So I had a bit of a play, and I'm not going to show you how to do all of this square. I'm not going to talk you through it. The designer does have copyright on it, so I'm not going to be showing you all of this square and how I made that. But I'm going to just give you some hints and tips on how you can colour change on a granny square without having lots of yarn carried across. So this one, I actually cut it more often than I needed to, because I realised that when I cut it the second row, I actually didn't need to. But even so, I've only got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. I think I've got 8 ends to sew in there. If I'd have cut every single time, I think there would have been like 30 or something. So that's just not fun. So what I've done is I've got my square. I've done the first row or round, and I've done the second round, okay, because they are quite straightforward. So I've done my first round of the pink, and then I've fastened that off. I've done my second round of the yellow, and I'm not going to fasten off now because we're going to be using the yellow on the next round. The pink, we would have had to carry it up another row, so that's why I fastened that one off. But from here on out, we're going to join the pink in for this next round, and from here on out we will be carrying our colours every round. So you will now only have the ends of the yellow and another 2 ends for the pink. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because we're going to have, let me just double check this, I'm trying to have this one for reference, do my same colours. So we're going to have pink in the corner, okay, but I want to have this yellow over there ready. So what I'm going to do is slip stitch across. Sorry, going off screen there, just get myself back in a moment. And apologies for this sort of shadow here. It's I'm using a not great tripody thing, as my other one broke, so I'm sort of making do at the moment. So I'm going to slip stitch across, which some of you will be familiar of doing in a granny square anyway. So just slip stitch those 2 stitches and then into the corner. But I was just about to do that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the pink in and bring this pink in, and I'm going to use this to do my slip stitch in the corner. So I'm going to go into the corner, and then I'm going to bring the pink through and through that yellow, that yellow loop, and now I've got my pink ready to work with. Okay, I'm just going to tighten that loop down. Sorry, going off camera there, guys. Please forgive me for that kind of thing today. It is a bit tricky, the setup I've got here now, but it will get better. So what I'm going to do is, if I turn it over, it's a bit tricky to get started, but we'll get there. So I'm going to bring this yellow up. Okay, see, I'm bringing this yellow up. In this corner we've got all those ends, but just try and ignore that. So I'm just going to have that carrying behind. I'm going to do a chain 3 with my pink, and then while that yellow is right behind, I'm just going to work over it and do 2 more double crochets for that corner cluster. Okay, 2. So we've got our corner cluster there of 3. Chain 2. Don't worry about the yellow, just have it behind. Okay, so if this camera focuses, there we go, it's just there behind. So we're going to do our next 3 double crochet in that corner, working over that yellow. So just make sure that your yellow's there and it's being trapped by your, well, not your yellow, whatever colour you're using, make sure it's trapped by your stitch. Do that 3rd one there. And now what you want to do for your colour change, leave your last 2 loops of your last stitch, and then the colour that you're changing to, make sure you always drop them the same way. So I'm putting my pink to the front and my yellow to the back, so they're always the same and not going to get tangled. So what you want to do, that's just the tail there getting in the way, so just ignore that tail and pop it through to the back next time. Okay, it through to the back now so it doesn't get in the way. Let's pop that through. Where are we? Pop that through there. It escaped. Okay, so we're going to leave those last 2 loops on the hook, and we're going to bring our yellow, but before we bring that up, we're just going to have a gentle tug to make sure it's not baggy and loose in here. Okay, so give a gentle tug and then pull that through those last 2 loops, and then give a gentle tug on pink one, the first colour, just so it's not such a big gap there. And then what you're going to do for making a granny, you go to the next space. So sometimes people put a chain in between or whatever, but for this pattern we're not. So see, we've got the pink coming across here, we're going to go into that space and out, and then we're going to do our stitch with the yellow, and that pink is going to get trapped in between our yellow strands. Okay, so if I show you, we've got 1 yellow stitch there, turn it over, and that pink is in here. Okay, now I know this is kind of a normal way of carrying yarn, and you might be thinking, well, this is nothing special. And you know, look at that pink. That pink is carrying along there. Look, you can see it clear as day. Don't panic. In round 2, or in the next round, it will all come good. So you're going to do your 3 clusters in the middle like you would. This is just regular granny pattern, really. Now this is the last stitch of this cluster, so the last stitch of this colour at the moment. So leave your last 2 loops on, drop that down. Remember, I'm bringing that colour to the front, so I'm not getting in a tangle. Pick up my pink, And what I'm going to do is give it a gentle tug while I'm holding on here, a gentle tug to make sure it's not baggy and loose along the top there. Oops, along the top there. Okay, and then I'm going to finish that stitch with the pink. I'm going to pick up the yellow and hold that against the back there. And I'm going to do a pink in the corner. Our corner is all pink. So I'm just going to hold that yellow there, work over the top of it, trap it between my yarn and do a pink corner, just as I did before. So let's finish this, oops, do this corner. Grab some more yarn. Oops, pink. Make sure you're catching that other colour in between. Okay, this is my last stitch of the corner. So I'm going to leave those last 2 loops on. And then I'm going to drop my pink to the front, pick up my yellow. I'm going to give a gentle tug to make sure it's not tight. Sorry, to make sure it's not loose, but also make sure it's not tight. Don't pull it too tight or it's going to distort your work and bunch it up. So bring that yellow through those last 2 loops. Just pull the pink slightly to tighten that stitch up. Okay, and then we're going to carry the pink across just as we did before. And then we're going to do a yellow in the middle space here. Once again, work over your pink. And it's so easy to do the whole stitch when you're used to doing that for granny squares. But I'm going to leave those last 2 loops on again. Bring this colour to the front. Pick up my pink. Give a slight tug to make sure it's not loose and baggy. And then finish that stitch off. And just pull it down slightly with the yellow. And then we're going to move over to this corner, carrying the yellow across, and do this corner of pink. And you're going to continue this round in exactly the same way as I've shown you for these sides, okay? So you're going to do your corner with your yellow being carried along and worked over, and then you're going to carry the pink across while you do the yellow cluster here, and so on. So you would do the rest of that round in exactly the way I've shown you on these 2 sides, okay? Which will result in these strands at the back. So this pink one going across here, there's a yellow going across there, so that's not quite as noticeable, but you will have those strands at the back. Don't panic, because I'm going to show you a little of what we can do with that for the next round. So I'll see you at the end of this round. Okay, I've reached the end of my round. Now for the next round, this corner, so when we do the corner here, it needs to be yellow. On mine, it needs to be yellow, okay, because we're alternating. So if I slip stitch across here, it's going to show really clearly. You're going to have this yellow slip stitches. So this next move of colour changes could seem a little unnecessary, but it works and saves you sewing those ends in. So what I'm going to do is backtrack slightly to those last 2 loops like we normally do for a colour change. Get those on there. We'll just undo it and do your part stitch. I'm going to do, make sure I'm carrying that yellow, sorry, the pink. Okay, so you've got your last 2 loops there of your last cluster. So what I'm going to do is bring this down, and I'm going to pick up, where is it? Pick up the pink. What I'm going to do is pull the pink through for a colour change. And like I said, I know this seems a little bizarre. And then I'm going to slip stitch into this chain here, as you normally would. I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that chain to finish that round off, like so. And then I'm going to carry this yellow behind, and I'm going to slip stitch into these 2 stitches here. So you're going to drop that yellow just for a moment and let it just come across the back. So I'm going to slip stitch into these 2 stitches. So then the slip stitches, you can't see those there because it's pink on pink. And then to go into this corner and slip stitch, we're going to do what I think we did around here somewhere. I'm going to put our hook in, drop that pink, I'm going to pick up this yellow, and I'm going to slip stitch with the yellow. So pull that yellow through and through that pink. Okay, so you've got these slip stitches across here, and I've just joined the yellow in there with the slip stitch. Okay, now make sure you get the pink behind, so you're going to be working over that pink strand there, and just pull that slip stitch a bit tighter with, not the tail, with the actual working yarn. Pull that so that brings that that pink part there down. Okay, so we're going to work with the yellow and going to carry the pink behind. These ends are getting in the way. This is why I've only got those few ends there and they're getting in the way. So this is why I could not cut every round. No, could not do it. So pick up the yellow and carry the pink. And I'm going to do my first chain 3. And then I'm going to do this corner working over that pink, just as we've done in the past when we did our pink corner and worked over the yellow. So quite straightforward for this first corner. Working over there. Chain 2. Still, I can feel my strand of pink behind. I know that I'm working over that. Now this is our last stitch of the corner, so leave those last 2 loops on. Drop your colour down, as I said before, to the front, and then pick up your other colour and just give a slight tug on it to make sure it's not really loose, and then pull through. Okay, and then we're going to carry the yellow, and we're going to do pink in here and in the next one. So what we're going to do though this time, because we have, this is where we can hide these colours. So see behind here, we've got this strand carrying across there. Okay, a bit ugly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be carrying the yellow, but what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to insert my hook and I'm going to catch that strand there. So I'm going to go underneath that pink strand. Okay, so see that I'm picking that strand up, I'm going under there, and then I'm going to continue. So I'm catching the yellow yarn behind, so that's still being trapped in like we've done before, but now I've got that strand from the bottom that I'm working with, and I'm going to do my 3 double crochets. Now I don't have to leave the last 2 loops for this one because I'm doing the same colour over here. So we are still carrying our yellow, and we're going to go straight over to here, and we're going to pick up that loose strand there. This is it here. Just putting my hook underneath and picking that one up, going through and doing my next 3 colours. So this is sort of the magic part, if you like, or the bit that makes it work, is picking up that strand that you've got there being carried from the previous round. It's picking that little horizontal piece, and then if I turn this over, if you look here, where are we? So we had a pink strand across here, and now it's trapped up here. You can see a little tiny bit here of where it went up, and not really any there because that's by the corner, but it's now trapped in there and we can't see it. Okay, and likewise over here we had a yellow strand, so it would have kind of sort of merged in with this cluster, but it was there, but it's now up here under this cluster, so they've been hidden, which is pretty cool. So what we're going to do is, I've just done that cluster there, but I need to undo and join the yellow back in. Okay, so I'm just going to join the yellow back in, finish that stitch, just pull it slightly so you know it's not all loose, and pull it through. Okay, and then we're going to carry the pink over to the corner, and the corner, when you're carrying yarn for a granny corner, it kind of hides itself. It's there, it's hidden. I can't see any unruly strands. There's a little tiny bit of yellow there, and it's just gone straight over. All of that corner is covered, so you don't have to worry about picking up any there. It's only on these clusters in the sides that you need to pick up. So go ahead and do your corner, and I will see you just as I finish the corner. Okay, once you have done your corner, you want to leave those last 2 loops on there. Oh, excuse me, getting a bit of a croaky throat. So you want to leave that on there, bring this yarn forward and change to your other colour. So just give it a slight tug, make sure it's not loose, pull it through those loops there. And now we're going to carry the yellow. So we're going to go into this first space here, and if you look down, there is see a pink strand there. So I'm going to put my hook underneath there. Okay, so I've got the strand above my hook, and then I'm going to work over the yellow behind and lock all that in at the top and hidden nicely. Okay, I don't need to leave the last 2 loops on here because I'm doing pink here. So I'm just going to continue to carry that yellow behind and work the next cluster. So again, we're going to look down at the bottom. This time it's a yellow strand. So we're going to go under there. See, I've got that trapped just here, and work over all of that. Lock that little strand in against, it'll be up here against the bottom of your cluster. So this time I'm going to leave the last 2 loops on the hook, give the yellow a slight tug so it's not loose. You know the drill by now. Pick up the previous colour, and then we're going to do this corner in that colour. Okay, so it's going to pause the video and finish my corner, pause the video and do your corner, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm on the last stitch of that corner, so I'm going to bring my pink back in and finish that stitch off like so, and then we're just going to work along the side. So we're going to be doing pink in this one, and remember there's this little strand here, so you want to work under that, carry the yellow and work those 3 stitches, and then over to the next one, and I'm going to go under this yellow piece here and do my 3, running out of yarn here, do my 3 pink here, okay, going to change colour on the last one, drop that down, pull the yellow, make sure it's not loose, and pull through. Oops, lost a loop there. Okay, pull through and just pull that down slightly. Okay, and then do your next corner. Okay, and then when you come to this side, you're going to again work over those 2 little pieces of yarn. Okay, and I will see you to do our slip stitch on this side. Okay, I've done the rest of my round. I'm going to confess to you now, I think I might have gone a little wrong. It's definitely different to my previous square, but do you know what, it actually doesn't matter, because I'm not showing you this square anyway. I'm showing you how to do your colour changes. So I'm going to assume that you want to do pink in this next corner. Okay, so on the next round you're going to want to do your pink. So what I'm going to do is show you how I did that slip stitch again. So it's going to undo that back to the last 2 loops, pop my hook in, and if you struggle with that, then just undo the whole stitch and start it again, leaving those 2 loops. Okay, So there we go, last 2 loops. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pick up the yellow and do that colour change. Okay, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of this yellow here. Okay, so don't worry about that pink right now. Do that slip stitch with the same colour, like so. Okay, so it's going to tighten that pink up a little, and then what I'm going to do is slip stitch across to the corner using this same colour so that you can't see it. Okay, it will just blend in, just like this one did down here. That was slip stitches. So I'm going to slip, slip, slip. And then for this corner, because we want to change back to our pink, what we're going to do is pop the hook in there, drop that yellow down, pick up the pink, and we're going to pull through with that new colour through that loop on the hook. Okay, so you've now got your pink. Just tighten that yellow up for that slip stitch, and then you can start your corner in your pink and work over that yellow. Okay, so then you would work in exactly the same way as before by doing your colour change on that last 2 loops of the stitch. Let me just do this corner. Make sure you're working over this strand, so it needs to always be on top of your hook. Let's get a little bit more yarn here. Pink. I've got more yellow and I needed more pink. Okay, so I've got 2 more stitches here. So 1 and last one. Change colour. Bring this up, just tug on it very gently, make sure it's not loose, and pull it through there. And then you're going to carry your pink, and then you can do your next cluster. Now I don't even know if this is the right colourway to do it. I know that I'm doing it different to before, and I've missed out that bit that I was supposed to show you. I'm getting sort of crochet happy here and forgetting. So for this first, for this cluster, you want to find that strand that is carrying across, that's that yellow, go underneath that to bring it right up to the top there. Okay, so it was down here and now it's right up to the top. So make sure that pink's over the top and do your set of 3. Okay, now depending on what colour you wanted to do here, it would be whether you did those last 2 loops and change colour, or whether you stayed with the yellow. Follow the pattern and do what they do there, or do what you fancy, something a bit similar to what they're doing. So here, this should be a strand down the bottom. So let's pick up that yellow strand there, pick that up. I'm just going to work across. Again, I'm still, no, you see I've left that pink. I forgot, I wasn't catching it. And if I bring that across, you see you're going to have that long piece. Ignore these are just tails that are going to sew in. But if I didn't catch it under my work, it would go all the way across here to the corner, and then you've got all of this yarn to catch when you're using it as a blanket or whatever, and that's not going to be great for little fingers and toes. So I'm just going to undo back to there. We know it's going to travel across a cluster, that's inevitable, you can't change that, but make sure it is there when you're back to doing this next one. Okay, and this time we will work over it. Okay, so that's what can happen if you don't double check that you're carrying it along with you. Okay, so I'm just going to do this last one. We're still carrying that pink along with us. Grab a bit more yarn. So I'm still carrying it underneath there. You can see now we've got that strand there. So rather than it going all the way along with nothing to anchor it, we've now anchored it under this yellow cluster here. Okay, so I'm just going to do these next 2. Going to leave the last 2 loops on the last stitch, because remember I want a pink corner. So just because we've carried that pink quite a way, we need to really give it a bit of a pull and make sure it's not really loose. Okay, so I'm going to pick that pink up and just pull that yellow to tighten that stitch, carry the yellow and go back to your corner. Okay, and that is it. That is it. So you might be thinking, well, what if this is my final row? I've got all that pink, I know, going across the clusters, and what do I do? How do I do when I've not got another round to catch those little pieces of yarn? Well, you have a few options really, and just finish this corner and I will show you. So this one here, I'd be changing colour now back to the yellow, and then starting here, carrying the pink. So what you could do is, if this was your last round, you're going to catch all those strands from the previous round, and then you would look at it back and see, is that carry there, is it going to show? Is it going to show? Are these pinks going to show? They're carrying along against pink, so will anyone really see them? Are they long enough to really be a problem, or are they okay? And if you decide, actually, turn it round, I can't really see much of those, can't really see much of the colours there, I don't think it's going to be a big problem, then you could just leave it as it is and just have that one last round with these few little pieces of yarn being carried. Okay, that's what I did on here. So here we go. We've got a few, but we've got yellow on yellow, we've got pink on pink, so it's all worked out really well, but they're not going to show very much. And from the front, if I just stretch this, see if you can see on this top pieces here, if you can see any yarn. So along the top of the round before last, you really can't see much carried yarn at all. And if I turn it over, there really is not much along this row that you can see. It's all kind of blending in. So that's one way. You just leave it and you just say, okay, it's just that one round and it's actually quite neat. So I'm going to leave it. The other option you could do is you could do another round all in one colour, so that you finish with a round that doesn't have any colour changes. So you could choose one of your colours from here, and personally, if I was finishing here, I would now take my pink and I would do a whole round of pink, because then again you'd have the alternate colours here. I would do a whole round of pink, and then when I'm doing that, I would pick up all these little strands from the previous round and they'd all be hidden quite nicely. The other thing you can do is, if you didn't want to make a whole solid round like that, you could change to single crochets, which you can carry your work along. And if you did single crochets into every stitch rather than into the gaps, so if you did single crochet in every stitch and carry the colour along with you, you can still pick up these colours from below, and that would give you a nice neat edge as well. But like I said, you just need to sort of decide, are these tiny little strands on that one row going to matter too much? So to keep it looking like in the granny square shape, I think if I was going to do anything on that last row just to catch those last little strands, I think I'd be inclined to do a single colour row to keep it looking like the granny square. So there we go. That is the way that I found of carrying the yarn and not having all those ends. Remember, every time we changed colour with those last two loops, that would have been another two ends to sew in. You would have had one of the original colour and one of the new colour. So every time you changed colour, it would be two more strands to sew in. I did not want to do that. I don't mind sewing in ends, I actually quite enjoy it, but no. So I think you'll agree with me that it does give quite a neat finish, and apart from these ends to sew in, there really isn't much of a carry to be seen. Just tiny little bits, not much at all. So have fun, and when you're making a granny square with colour changes in the future, have a go at this technique, have a go at this way, and show us what you've done. There is an album in the group where you can upload your photos of your reinventing the granny square. as I said, sorry, I can't show you how to make the whole square because it's not our pattern. We don't have copyright permission to video that, so I've just been showing you how to colour change. That is all. So go and have a look in the group, go and have a look for the link to this pattern and have fun. And I can't wait to see your photos in the group. All the links are in the description below, and have fun. Just keep hooking and don't let your tea get cold.